Hi, my name is Lane Eagles, and I'm the new Associate Curator at Bellevue Arts Museum. Yeah, so I earned my PhD in art history from the University of Washington. I've worked in a number of museums in the area in both curatorial and collections capacity. I've worked at the Burke Museum of Natural History and Culture, the Henry Art Gallery, the Museum of Pop Culture. I grew up in the South in an area that didn't have a sort of widespread art scene, grew up in Oklahoma. So for me, the arts were always, a solace. The arts were always like an invitation to something different, an invitation to something that was bigger and really engaging. I've always sort of naturally gravitated towards the arts and the visual arts, obviously, in particular. Yes, there are so many exhibitions at BAM that I loved. As a curator and as an art historian, one of my areas of focus is fashion and costume history. So any sort of show that rethinks fashion, rethinks clothing, really speaks to me. So I loved Ron Ho's A Jeweler's Tale. I loved a few years ago Isabella de Bourges-Grave's Worlds of Paper, Worlds of Fashion, to see historical and modern contemporary works, iconic moments in fashion history brought to life in paper was really exciting. I was planning on coming and seeing Nicole Gordon's Altered States, but unfortunately the lockdown came down. But I have dove deeply into all the digital content around that show, and I really am obsessed with those penguins. I can't get over them. I also really love this piece behind me. This is Holly Ballard-Martz's The Danger of Nostalgia in wallpaper form in utero. It's really visually fascinating. It tackles a really big, complicated topic. There's so many shows and so many pieces here at BAM that I really love. We are so very lucky in this region, in the Pacific Northwest more widely, in Seattle more specifically, because of the vibrancy and the richness and the depth of the artistic excellence that comes out of this area. Again, as a curator and as an art historian, it's really remarkable. It's such a dream. You can just dig and dig and dig into the art scene. You can just dig into the history, and you will never hit the bottom. It's so diverse. It has such an incredible complexity in both technical and conceptual excellence. And as an art historian, I think a lot in terms of narrative and historical continuum. And art historians are trained to be writers, but I've always felt that curation is a type of art history. Curation is a type of sort of visual, tangible writing that invites people into art analysis in a way that writing never can. And so, I think one of the things that's so exciting about working in a museum that very directly engages with the art scene of its local area, of this local area in particular, is that BAM has this honor and this opportunity to continue to write that legacy, to continue to be the face of that history and this art scene, which again is so deep and so complex and so vibrant. No, I am not an artist. I am not good at making art. When you do a long sort of like legacy of art historical training, like I have done, you take a lot of studio classes so you can get a hands-on experience of artistic technique. And I was never very good at those classes. Once I turned in a painting and my professor asked me if I was sure I was done with it. I think that's one of the things I love about working in a museum, and one of the things I love about curation is that I am just constantly blown away by art making and constantly blown away by what artists can do. It's a skill set and it's a mindset that I have no access to. Well, so I research the history of fashion, and also I have taught costume history. And when I first started delving into the subject in early graduate school, I was sort of shocked to learn about the history of hemlines and like the visibility of women's legs historically. It's not something that I had ever thought about, which is one of the things I love about art more generally, is that's the point of it. It makes you think, it makes you, it brings to light things that you'd never thought of before. It's in the mid 14th century that like women's hemlines kind of plummet to like the ankle or the floor. And then if you look at both the actual historical record of costumes and you look at paintings, you do not see women's legs, and for the most part you don't see women's feet for hundreds and hundreds of years. And then women's legs just miraculously pop back into the fashion continuum in the 1920s. So I don't know, that's one of the fun little quirky moments that I love to think about. Well, I mean, in terms of the museum specifically, I'm really looking forward to doing parts of my job I can't do right now. I can't give tours, I can't train docents, I can't do in-person public programming. I love giving lectures, I love interacting with the community, asking people to think about art, them asking me questions back. That's such a wonderful part of my job, and I cannot wait to do that sort of thing again. And then personally, I just want to go to a bar with my friends. I just want to go sit in a coffee shop when I'm sick of my desk. There's so many things that I'm looking forward to. I've lived in Seattle for about 10 years now. I consider myself a Seattleite. I think one of the things I love about Seattle is it combines the aesthetic beauty of a large metropolitan city and then all of the important resources that come with living in a large metropolitan city, but it's not too big, it's not too overwhelming, and also, of course, it's just naturally mind-bogglingly beautiful here. We're so lucky to have not just one, but multiple layers of these really gorgeous natural elements of the mountains and the tree lines and the water. It's just so lovely. It's the only city I've ever lived in where on the bus, when you cross a vista, everyone looks up from their phones and looks at just how gorgeous the scenery is for a second. I think that's very special. And I also just, Seattle's kind of known as a quirky city, especially in terms of the visual arts. I love I don't know exactly what to call it. I guess you would call it an art attack, which happens in Seattle quite a bit, where you're just walking down a random residential street and you'll see this very strange ad hoc installation of, I don't know, little plastic dinosaurs just all over someone's front yard or something like that. I love that. There are so many things that I'm looking forward to about working at BAM, things that I'm already so thrilled to be working on. To me, BAM is possibility. It's always future looking because we don't have a permanent collection. The possibilities for what kinds of shows you can create are endless. It's kind of a curatorial dream. In that sense, you can always be pushing the boundaries, you can always be rethinking, always be reshaping. And that's so very exciting for me in particular, is the idea that we have so much freedom and so much flexibility in a space like this to create exhibitions of all kinds.